Well, good morning. Travel by water here. Today I'm going to do a little talk about my 2020 Everglades Challenge experience. So, just a few photos here to start off of the drive down. Basically, we drove from Canada to Florida. Took, I guess, 3 or 4 nights it was to get down there, and I car topped the boat down. We stayed at hotels on the way down. Once we were down there, we camped at Fort DeSoto, and as you can see from these next videos, did a little bit of training before. There are a couple of pictures of my boat on the beach. So this was on Friday, inspection day. My boat is the rotomolded Perception 17. It's carrying a 1.15 meter Falcon sail. And for my paddle, I'm using a Joe Oblenis Greenland paddle, Western Red Cedar. And then the rest of the pictures are just some random pictures I took on the boat, beach, of various different boats. There's all kinds of different approaches, from kind of more traditional dory type designs to modern monohulls, to old fixed up dinghies, racing dinghies, kayaks, beach cats. There's a little bit of for everyone. Trimarans as well. Okay, so basically this was the inspection day. This was the day before the start of the race. Everybody gets inspected to make sure they have all their required safety equipment. So it's pretty well an all-day thing with a captain's meeting at the end of the inspection day. Good morning. Here we are, start of the 2020 Everglades Challenge. Weather hold. It's rough out there. It's windy. I'm seeing spray blowing off the tops of the white caps. So this feels familiar. They're talking about maybe getting underway at about 9 o'clock, 0900. At any rate, it's windy and it's pretty rough, so I can understand, I can appreciate why the weather hold. Okay, more on that later. Here we are. So we went to Plan B, and so that meant we started with the rest of the kayaks at Anna Maria Bridge. So we didn't cross Tampa Bay for safety reasons. At any rate, so now we're cruising along. I'm doing about 3.5 knots with, I'm not paddling. We're heading for Sarasota Bay, which is reportedly pretty lumpy. Okay, so we launched at Anna Maria Bridge, just north of Sarasota Bay at about noon. The race was supposed to start at 0700, so we lost about 5 hours here, but only saved less than 10 miles. So starting further south probably would have been a smarter move for me in retrospect. So I sailed across Sarasota Bay on a beam reach. It was reasonably quick. That went fine. And then from then on, the wind was a little bit less helpful. It was either against me or not very strong. I ended up paddling and eventually taking a little bit of a break near Casperson's Beach. All right, I just stopped on a oyster bed for granola bar and whatnot. I'm still behind schedule, but I'm no further behind schedule than I was this morning. The wind's actually picking up a bit. I don't know if it's picking up, it's getting more steady, actually. Consistent winds are good for kayak sailing. The gusts really slow you down, but when it's consistent, you can get some speed on. So I'm hoping to be at checkpoint 1 shortly after lunch. which is, you know, not. I would have liked to have been there last night, actually, but it's just been slow. I've been slow. Other people have been fast. I better go. It looks like the tide's coming up. Don't want my kayak to float away. Alrighty. See you at Cape Hayes. Oh, one other thing. I suspect the race has been long since won. I suspect the finishers are, the fast boats are already in. And for people like me, there's probably another 6 or 7 days to go. That's if I can make my checkpoints. This is a hard race. It's way harder on a kayak than on a sailboat. When we did this on a sailboat, like, we were like 175 miles down the coast by now, and I'm like 55 miles down the coast. It's tough in a kayak. All right, here we go. Back in my boat. I hate to say this, but I finally decided to put the sail down so I can actually get somewhere. The sail's just not performing in this wind at all. All I'm doing is blowing sideways, fighting with the boat. I'm sure I can make twice the speed paddling. Oh, it's frustrating. I should have just brought it fast. Here's a look at the conditions. I can barely move against it. I'm making less than a knot. I had to take a break anyway, so I thought I'd film. I'm not getting anywhere. I don't know if I'm going to make it here. The following day started off not too badly. I was getting a little tiny bit of help from the sail, and I was paddling along, not too bad. Eventually, I got to a Beach Road, the bridge at Beach Road, and the wind really hit hard after that, and I just stopped being able to make decent headway. I couldn't sail effectively, and I couldn't paddle very fast. I was doing maybe just over a knot type of thing. It was a really strong wind. So I ended up spending the night in the vicinity of Dog Island. I'm off Monday morning. I haven't had my sail up in a while. I had to paddle hard all day yesterday, and I didn't do very well. I didn't make much ground. It was into a headwind. So at any rate, I'm going to put this camera down and get back to paddling because I got a lot of ground to make up. This is heading into Charlotte Harbor, Pine Island Sound. Wind's supposed to pick up really nasty later in the day, so I'm going to try and beat. I only have a second here to film, but these are the conditions I'm paddling into on Charlotte Harbor, and it's supposed to be like this all day, and it's supposed to continue like this most of the week. Headwind of about this strength. At least it's not too rough yet. Back to paddling. Alright, progress is being made. Stopped on another sandbar or tidal flat or whatever you want to call it. Paddled about 7 miles upwind. It wasn't fast, but I was fresh, and it wasn't too bad. Basically, if you can see down at the end there, and then off to the right another few miles is where I came from. So now I have to cross Charlotte Harbor, and I'm on the southernmost point of land that I can do that from. That's the way I planned it. Rather than doing a beeline, I thought I'd get here and then take a break before heading out onto the big water. Tide is in my favor. The wind is not. So the wind and tide are opposing, so I'm thinking might be rough out there. It will be rough out there. At any rate, it's 4 miles. So there it is there. 4 miles. Obviously that's 1 hour at 4 knots if I can sail, or 2 hours at 2 knots if I have to paddle. I'm hoping I can sail. Alright, heading off across Charlotte Harbor. Alright, so my plan to cross Charlotte Harbor actually worked out pretty well. I paddled upwind until I got to kind of a southern island, and then I was able to use my sail on a beam reach across the north end of Pine Island, where I was able to take a little bit of a break and bail out my boat. It was rough. It was very rough. Breaking waves, wind against current. This looks like a good spot to take my lunch break. Perfect. There's a look at how much water I took on crossing. Quite a bit. That's with the spray skirt on, of course. I just thought I'd show what the shoreline looks like. You really can't stop paddling. I think it's like this for about 20 miles, and if you stop paddling, you're blown in right away. And of course, there's crocodiles in there, alligators. Hang on, I better back up. There's crocodiles in there, alligators, dangerous snakes like pythons, jaguars. So you can't stop paddling, no matter how tired you are, because there's nowhere to go. Anyway, I'm hungry. That's why I decided to comment on that. Is you know, I got my spray skirt on, and my water bottle's empty, and I've eaten the snacks that were in my PFD. And I've been looking for somewhere to stop for a long time, and I can't find one. I'm paddling into a headwind. So, anyway, that's what the mangroves look like. Barnacle covered mangroves filled with crocodiles. I'm gonna go find a beach eventually. Oh, and I can't sail. The wind's too strong. I can't keep the boat upright, so sailing's not an option. Have to paddle. Okay, so Monday went not too badly, but my race did come to an abrupt end at the end of Monday. So after 3 days, what happened was my shore contact got a false help message from my spot, and she sent somebody to collect me, concerned about me. And so when there was a truck with an empty kayak rack on the shore, waiting for me, and I was not making headway, I took the ride. So I probably could have kept going for another day, 2, even 3 days, but I had lost enough time in the first 2 days battling with the headwind that I didn't think I could finish. So I took the ride, and that was the end of my Everglades Challenge 2020. Better luck next time, maybe. But I did have a great time and made it to the lunch and award ceremony at the end.